Snow.
Hey, MJ.
Hey, Sid.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Hi.
And on today we have Jaron Lockridge. Welcome to the show.
Yes.
Hey, how are y'all doing today? Thank you for having me on.
Good, good. So you run Cinema Ministry Productions on it, and you have an upcoming streaming series of House for the Broken. Okay, so let's talk about that. And if we could start off, give us a little bit of backstory on you.
I live in Jackson, Tennessee. Grew up in West Tennessee pretty much all my life. And in high school, I like to say by accident, because I just needed an extra class that year. I took this theater arts class and discovered this talent of mine to write specifically for the arts, and just fell in love with it from that point. And one thing led to another, and like after I graduated, this is around 2004, 2005. Technology hadn't quite kicked off yet. I'm not even sure if YouTube was actually a thing then, maybe just starting. So like the thought process was that you still had to go to LA to really make it in the movie business. So I thought that was a far-fetched idea, and ended up pivoting into law enforcement. And doing that at around 2010 or so. And, I remember while I was there, one of the instructors was like, find you a hobby or something to do outside of this, law enforcement, something to do. And it got to a point to where as an outlet, I started back writing and got into making films, because about around this time, technology is easier and you can produce low budget films. So around 2016 or so, I started my original company, Misguided Perceptions Media Group. Started producing a lot of indie projects and indie films and series, and was very successful at it. And just got to a point to where I decided to rebrand and change my company to Cinema Ministry Productions, which now focuses more on faith-based content, more positive content, and led me now to my series House for the Broken, which I'm promoting now, and it's on the verge of being released here next month.
What's the premise of that?
House for the Broken is basically, it follows a pastor and a few congregants in this church. And it basically shows the authentic side of pursuing the faith. A lot of things, especially, people who are outside the faith think, hey, once you get here or something, it's perfect and everything's just beautiful and no more troubles, which is far from the truth. It's no magic ticket to no problems and no more issues in life. So it just kind of show a more authentic journey in the faith through this church, through these different members. You have one who's the pastor, who's supposed to have all the answers, and you see where he's struggling with things here and there in his personal life, trying to raise a son, and feeling like, I'm not sure I'm doing right by him, and another person who's dealing with some domestic issues, and another dealing with addiction. So you have a lot of different facets that you get to view these issues from, and it's just showing that, at the end of the day, we all flesh and blood, we're all human, and we all deal with the same thing. So just trying to take off that gloss of perfection that I feel a lot of times when it comes to faith that stands on the forefront.
And is a lot of it that's in the show based on personal experience?
I would say some. Well, one thing I always mention about, being in law enforcement, I have a unique perspective when it comes to writing because I've experienced so many different things. I've experienced so many different parts of life, so many different, people, like from all races, all backgrounds. So I can talk from a perspective to where I've witnessed and I know things a little bit more authentically. that I believe makes me unique to a lot of writers, and I use that to my advantage when it comes to my stories. I'm able to just mix in these authentic voices and the way things genuinely would happen in the real life into my work, and that's a compliment I get a lot of the time. When people view my work is how real it feels, and that's something that I feel is a niche of mine, is being able to put those authentic voices in there.
And how long were you a police officer for? Since 2010?
Yes, I went to the academy in 2010.
And you're still currently a police officer?
Yes, sir.
That must be a really difficult job to be doing. Describe that a little bit about working as a police officer in your area.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I often say I'm filmmaker by day, police officer by night, because I work night shift. It's very different sides of the coin, to say the least. But I would say, using filmmaking as an outlet has been the most beneficial thing since entering this field. You have a lot of people in this field that this is their identity. Being a police officer, there's nothing else they can do. They would know how to live unless it's something to do with police work. And usually those are the ones that, eventually drive themselves into the ground, because everything of their life is built around being an officer. So, I made it a habit to get away from the job. When I go out of service, I don't listen to the radio. I don't care about nothing that's going on with the job, and I'm able to get away from it through my writing, through making films. So it's a very good contrast when it comes to that, getting away from the stresses of this job and able to have an outlet through filmmaking, and which is something that I've been doing not as long but equally as long, and it just kind of giving me that outlet has been a lot more beneficial than anything else when it comes to doing this job.
So I kind of understand why they told you to get a hobby, right? Because you probably see the worst of humanity, like, on a daily basis. Like, wow.
Yeah. It's you do see. I saw something where most people see a certain traumatic event, maybe once or twice in their lifetime, where we see it daily. It's kind of unhealthy, because I made the mention before where I remember a case myself where I dealt with this fatality wreck where kids and stuff were involved. And after you get done doing all this and that, you have to suck it up and go to the next call. Like, it's no debrief. Right. It's nothing after you just witness that. You go to the next call, and I remember the next call I went to, the lady just, as soon as I got in the car, is cussing me out. Like, ma'am, I had nothing to do with nothing. I'm here to see, how can I help you? I had nothing to do with what's going on. So you can kind of see, like, when you see a lot of these instances across the nation where these police officers just snap. Me being an officer is no excuse for it, but a lot of times I can relate, because I'm pretty sure that person just kept packing it down, packing it down, because he had no way to release that or talk about it. So you're dealing with a lot of these people that deal with the worst of the worst. Like, for a living, we deal with people on their worst days. Mm-hmm. So that constantly adds up and adds up. And if you don't archetype, if you don't fish or exercise or find something to allow yourself, or even, if you're the type that likes therapy, like something to get that out of you, is just going to continue to pack and one way or another it's going to explode. You explode on your marriage, or something suffers. That's why the divorce rates are so high usually with law enforcement officers and stuff like that. Something suffers because of his job. So I'm always a proponent of, if you have something you love, do it. Get away from this job. As soon as you take that uniform off, don't look at it again until it's time to go back in, and just find something to get away from this job, because it can be kind of a tally on you.
Yeah. So I'm a community worker, and I've been doing community work for a long time. So I see kind of where you're coming from. My question is, obviously, as a community worker and as somebody who sees people in humanity and, some at their vulnerable spots, is there any kind of like outlet within like police departments that offer like counseling within the department or push forward for that? Because I feel like, and I don't know if you would agree that the media kind of does villainize police officer brutality, and instead of humanizing it, do you guys have any outlet within the department that, where people don't leave the job or don't leave the job at home or don't know any better to do that, that they get help within the department?
I would say my specific department does. I would say that's the case with all of them. My department is pretty decent in size. We have about a 300-person department. It's still on the smaller end, but it's pretty much on the decent size. As the city here is like over 100,000 residents. But my department, especially here these last few years, have really, really nailed it down. Like we have that is part of our insurance to go and seek that help. We've had people come in and talk to I can't think of his name, but he goes and he tours certain police departments to kind of talk about that issue specifically. So we've been benefited with that here recently. I've started to notice within the last 4 to 5 years. But a lot of these smaller departments where they, some of the guys are just running rampant. They don't have the manpower to take off and do this and that. Yeah, they're going around the clock, and they probably never get that type of help unless they just go themselves. So they're probably not encouraged to do it because, hey, we need you on the streets. We can't have you having any extended time off. Nobody's here to cover the streets. We need you here. So a lot of these smaller departments around, because I started in a little small 9-man department where the call volume wasn't high, but since it was a rural area, like I've probably seen the most fatality wrecks working that little itty bitty department than I have in the place where I am now, where I've been the last 10 years. I would say I've probably seen one fatality wreck in this city because it's the city, so people aren't driving as fast and stuff like that. But there, like, it was almost every other day. So it's different experiences through different police departments, but at the end of the day, it's all type of stuff that, normal people doesn't see all the time.
Right.
Like even on social media, when the groups and stuff, they're talking about this, and I turn it off. I don't want it. I see it for a living. I don't want to see it on social media. So, yeah, I would say, especially here lately, it's been a real increase, encouraging, officers to go and, seek this, this counseling here, counseling there. Whereas when I first started, that wasn't the case. It was still kind of taboo.
Would you say that's like your driving passion to do what you do on the side, is to help people have maybe a more positive outlook or have like something to go to? Because I feel like as somebody who follows faith as well, do you feel like that might be a pushing moment for you because of all of the things that you've experienced?
Not necessarily. I would say, because at first, especially when I first created my company, it was more just for me. I found it my own way to kind of get it out there. And then once I noticed what people started liking, I kind of started migrating to more human stories, and just using the job as, a motivation behind the writing to go that way. And then, when it came to the shift of doing more faith-based content, it just came from more of a personal experience myself to where I came, what I would say is this faith crisis. Like, it was either, I'm either going to keep going this way or I'm going to go this other way. It came to a point to where, what people were telling me didn't work. I had to find it out for myself. So when I, went through that journey on myself and I was able to just kind of rebuild my faith, I think of the parable of the sower, which is very almost actualized to what I was going through, to where uh, if you don't seek it on yourself, you stand off of what other people tell you and this and that. Your faith is not going to be more than just surface level. So that's where it came to me, and that's where I would say, the unique experience of anybody that's ever experienced that, where the Holy Spirit met me and just kind of confirmed some things for me, and that what caused me to change to the point to where, okay, the way I was doing things, I need to have a purpose behind it now, and that led more to my rebrand than anything.
Who, as a director, who are your influences? Like growing up, what kind of movies did you like?
I'm a movie lover. I loved everything. I would say so many out there that I loved growing up. I always say I'm a more of a suspense type of person. I like crime movies. Just I guess naturally. But I was a big Tarantino fan growing up.
Yeah.
I love now one writer that I really love, Taylor Sheridan. I enjoy a lot of his work. So I would just say I've never had just a one person that I probably would follow to that degree. I just loved following great work, great films, no matter who produced them. So yeah, I would say that. Like I always tell people, my top three is There Will Be Blood. What's the one? No Old Country for
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
No
Good
Country
one.
for Old Men and Pulp Fiction. That's my top three. So
Yeah,
I just
all
love
good.
those films, and I'm just an avid film watcher. I just love watching a good movie and that.
Yeah.
Where is this new series going to stream? What platform?
Right now, it's licensed to Plex, Tubi, and Amazon. We're pitching it right now to Pluto, Paramount, Peacock. So we're waiting back to hear the licensing on those channels. So the way that I work, my distributor is not a traditional distributor. They pitch out and get these licensing agreements because I'm very keen on ownership. There's something that I treasure when it comes to my own projects, is keeping the ownership up front and just licensing out on the back end. So that's where we're waiting, and we're kind of stuck at, is just waiting on a lot of this feedback from some of these platforms about licensing the show. But right now, confirmed Amazon, Tubi, and a smaller channel, Popsy on Plex. I think it's mostly on the Roku channels. Is confirmed to be there toward the end of late July with some more to come.
Okay. And a lot of your work is, based on addiction and stuff like that. And working as an officer, how do you see the addiction crisis, like the fentanyl crisis in your area? Is it like a lot of what you deal with during the day is issues like that?
Yeah, it's really taken off. I would say I've lived through when meth was a thing, when meth was really bad, rolling labs and stuff like that. I would say this fentanyl crisis is probably worse than that, like to where it's hitting now. A lot of places probably won't, put those numbers out there, but I know it was a point here recently where we were experiencing at least one overdose death a day. So like you're getting to a point to where like some of these bigger cities are probably tripled, quadrupled that, like just based off of fentanyl production. So I think that's why you're seeing such a basis on that, because I'm thinking it's cheaper to get, easier to get, and just a little bit, to put in whoever's using. It's the reaction is so vast to where they tell us if we get just a speck of dust on our finger, it could send us into overdose. So we have to be even more careful with stuff like that. So it's just, I believe this is new grounds. I'm not sure how it's going to get to a point to controlling it because there's just so much of it out there. But yeah, this is a new challenge, especially on the law enforcement.
Yeah, I had to sit on grand jury And most of I was surprised at how much it had shifted over from meth to, there were still cases that involved meth, but I mean, almost all of the drug cases were fentanyl. And they did tell us on one of the cases, the officer had two pairs of gloves on and still had to go to the hospital because it got through and affected him.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, they really like when it comes to searching and stuff like that. They harp on having these certain type of gloves, which still you have to be careful because it's just so potent, which
Hmm.
makes by being that potent, I'm wondering how anybody can use it. I'm wondering how it's not
Yeah.
something else going. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely. It's different. Meth labs and rolling labs, like back in the mid 2000s, where you used to always hear that. Like you hardly hear those anymore. I believe like it's just coming from Mexico, being shipped, and they're doing it there and shipping it here. Like people aren't. It's so hard to do it. Like with the old pseudoephedrine and all that stuff. Like they just bypass that and get it shipped straight in. So
Yeah.
a lot of the old meth labs and stuff you don't hear about anymore. And the same way it's coming, the same way fentanyl keeps coming. So it's just like a nonstop train with this stuff.
On the streets, how do you guys, because obviously a lot of drug addiction has been led into obviously poverty and homelessness or people who are unhoused. How do you guys, how do you as an officer confront that when you're out on the streets?
As far as the
Like, how do you deal with the individuals or communicate with the individuals that may be addicted to fentanyl? Because that's obviously, I work with the homeless, and the majority of them are addicted, sadly, because of unhoused and the needs not being met with the community. So my question is, because I've seen, as I've been a community worker, I've seen a lot of negative interaction with the officers here. We're in a very rural area with people who are addicted to substances and on the street. So how do you, as an officer, how do you interact with those people in your area?
I mean, it's basically the same way we've always done it. From my experience, I would say that the more poor in, they just don't have access to the resources, as a lot of I would say the people with money, because we're actually seeing a lot more of the overdoses with, the people you would think like, wow, y'all are, getting introduced to this type of drug. So that's one thing where I would say, like, the addiction aspect of it, like it has no class restriction. It's just where the resources are getting met. And a lot of these, the homeless people that we're coming across, like whenever we get a call to an overdose or something, that's why almost every officer, every car, it has Narcan, because it's so important to it. It's almost like you have to have some before you go out on shift. That's how bad it is. And more than anything, that's where we're seeing the difference is they don't have the access to go or the relative to take them to the hospital, so that, by the time law enforcement is called, about it, stuff like that. A lot of them are, on their own, where we find them. And what I would say the difference is just they're not privy to the resources where a lot of other people may have a family member or somebody that can kind of help them get through that a little bit more easier, a little bit more discreetly.
And I appreciate you saying that, because there is such a stigma as I work in the community that it's only, people who live in poverty, and it's only people who are on the streets. And I do appreciate that you're able to help with that stigma out there, and that it really doesn't have a class. Drug addiction is not bias. And because I do hepatitis C screening, and I get people treatment that more likely aren't able to get treatment, but I have also noticed that it's not class bias. Drug addiction is not.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it finds its way across everything because they mix it with so much.
Right.
So like it's a lot of people they're being disingenuous if they're saying they're not. And a lot of times like when you get to the more richer neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's embarrassing. So they're trying their best to do everything
Mhm.
they can not to let that out. But where the homeless guy or the poor guy, like they have no option but to call the ambulance or call somebody or call us to get that help. So yeah, it's I would say just from my experience, the one thing about being in this field, like you just kind of see like across the board, just humans in general, we're all dealing with something. The stigmas and everything, like it's falsehoods. Like everybody is dealing with something one way or another, and it's just, I mean, it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate the work that you do out there on it. Jump back to the movies. How many movies have you made?
I think I've made 10 feature films and 2 series. 11 feature films and 2 series. And this one will make a third series. So I made quite a bit of content since 2016.
Wow. We have a friend that's going to be directing her first film. Do you have any advice for a new filmmaker?
Yeah, I would say, especially nowadays, just find out what you're comfortable doing. One thing about me that's I'm fortunate is I can write, I can also film, and I can also edit. So a lot of that is the bulk of the cost of making a film. I'm able to kind of keep that down on the front end, and I'll hire out for a script supervisor or a grip or something to kind of take it off of me. But I have produced films before it was just me. Like I've found a way to do it. And you just gotta know what you're working with. Usually, I would tell anybody who's producing a film, try to keep the cast as low as you can without hurting the story. Locations as minimal as you can without hurting the story, and just know what your budget is, know what you can do, and just try your best to write a story that fits in that glove. And a lot of the stress, I mean, it's going to be stressful regardless, but a lot of the extra stress you won't put on yourself because you know the bounds in which you can create. So I would tell anybody, like, there's no better time now than to create a film. Just write to your resources. And just write something believable and engaging without going all out and making something that you can afford to make. So that would be my advice to anybody. Just start. You won't learn until you put yourself into the fire, and it's no better time than now. You can get distribution. You can learn anywhere. You can literally get on YouTube and just learn how to make a movie if that's what you want to do. Like, it's so much content and resources out there that if this is something that you want to do, this is pretty easy.
All right. How do you find time to sleep in your personal life?
I know. That's what I've been thinking the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like, ow.
Yeah, it's a science to it because I'm married, got 3 boys, 2 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, one just graduated, or 2. I got one in college, one just graduated, another one going to high school. So
All right.
it's just being very, very good with your planning. Know how to plan, know how to make time for everything that you got to make time for, and just just being able to rest, being able to know when you need to kind of step up and get some work done. Everything is just a balance. You just have to be a good balancer when it comes to everything. And I'm fortunate now that even at my job now, these last few years, I got a position to where I'm mostly at a desk. So I take a lot of the lobby reports and stuff like that. When people come into the lobby and needs to talk to an officer, file a report, call in reports, stuff like that. So a lot of my job now is not on the street, and I'm glad of that. So I got a lot more stability to be able to write and do this filmmaking stuff as well. So that kind of worked out within itself, but still everything's just balancing. It's a big balance sheet of time and what you can do and what you can't do, and more importantly, resting. Just trying not to overwork yourself because burnout is very real.
And we ended on more of a lighthearted note, a lot of heavy topics today. What was there ever a funny thing out there on the streets while on the job, or a heartwarming thing that happened to you?
There's a lot of heartwarming things. I would say one funny thing, a department that I used to work for that I always remember is Christmas. I'm not sure if it was Christmas Eve. It may have been the day before Christmas Eve. But I remember patrolling this neighborhood, and this guy comes and gets ready. He walks out of a house to the street dressed as the Grinch. So he had just broke into a house dressed as the Grinch, and I tell you, I had a foot chase with the Grinch. Because I don't know where the guy went after across his own place, but that's something that's funny. Like, if I didn't have the footage, I think I got the dash cam somewhere. Nobody would believe me that I had a foot chase with the Grinch.
That's pretty funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Can you give one more plug for your project?
Yeah, House for the Broken will be available late July 2026. Anybody who's interested, would love your feedback. I would love you to check out the show. It'll be Amazon, Tubi for starts.
Okay.
You can check out our social media everywhere. It's Cinema Ministry, cinemaministry.com for the mailing list, I think the show will be one of those that, just kind of shine a refreshing light on a lot of issues that's going on nowadays from a pure and authentic voice. So I'm looking forward to it coming out, and hopefully, people will check it out and enjoy the show.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it.
we'll definitely
I've got
check it out.
Amazon.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely watch it too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, please let me know what you think.
And sincerely, on behalf of myself, and I'm sure both of my colleagues here, thank you for what you do. I don't think you guys get enough appreciation for what you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I sincerely appreciate it.
Okay. All right, Jaron, I will send a copy of this to your people, and maybe we can talk again another time.
All right, sure thing.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 All right, see you later.